Welcome back to the channel, Play It Quick. I'm Gambit. We are continuing our play of Dante Inferno. We have entered the second circle, Lust. If this is your first time joining the channel, welcome. Glad to have you. Here at Play It Quick, we love to get straight to the action. So without further ado, let's start. You descend the staircase of Minos' manor and follow dimly lit masonry corridors. The echo of howling winds announces what awaits just ahead. The passage ends at the top of a precipice, from which all you can see is darkness and thick clouds. This is the second circle. Arising at the will of the powers that govern this place, the gales capture you and throw you into the eye of a hurricane, as if your bodies were nothing more than dry leaves. Within, the damned are whipped from one side of the vortex to the other, screaming and floundering about you. There is no peace for them in this punishment. What sin do they commit to justify their terrible fate? So prepare the exploration board, take the region, discovery, path, and treasure cards, and place Wuthering Heights in position A3, which I already did. The same gust that takes you by surprise brings you safely to the top of a cliff where gusts blow in all directions. Here, the lustful suffer in barren landscapes, tossed by winds as wild as their passions. In life, I considered such punishment to be too severe, but now I know that everything here is as it should be. In fact, these same currents, so violent to the damned, are safe for us. It will be through them that we shall travel, Dante explains. On my first journey, so grievous I felt upon discovering this place that I fainted, and therefore little did I explore. So, in order to follow the invaders, we need to navigate the hurricanes in search of the exit, which I do not know. Like castaways left to the whims of the tides, you throw yourselves into the whirlwinds, hoping that Providence will lead you along the path that the Order has already taken. Place ruins of the past, echoes of Ravenna, gates of Babylon, and ruins of the Sphinx. Then take the path cards 4 through 7 and place them face up in this region. From now on, whenever you inspect this region, choose one of those cards, take it, and proceed to the resolution. Do so now. Follow the Sirocco wind. The caravan traverses the arid winds that blow from the south to the northwest, carrying sand from the Sahara towards Europe. This time, cadaverous pigeons cooing profanity disturb you as you fly through a warm, gentle breeze. What sort of punishment is this? Hearing obscenities for eternity? The devotee questions. This derangement, not punishment, the poet explains. It's like the palace I see ahead. These distortions are manufactured by the will of the damned, and are only possible thanks to the disorder caused by the invaders. Luckily, few are aware that they now have such power, he concludes. If the birds bother you, maid, it is because the Queen of Babylon dislikes you. We are being led to her punishment, Dante explains, as the wind lowers you to the ground in front of turquoise gates with golden ornaments that remind you of spiderwebs. Move to Gates of Babylon. As you land, the gates open to reveal a majestic woman dressed in blue and red. There is Semiramis, the feared conqueror of Assyria, Dante introduces your hostess. And you are the ones who pursue the invaders, she states, showing you that she knows many things. It seems that Providence has brought us together, for no one can defeat the one who guards the passage, at least not without help. The queen pulls out a flask from her cleavage, a liquid of the greatest vileness. Well, perhaps I have what you need. The poet warns you that negotiating with her is a bad idea. However, the queen is persuasive. I know what I did, but I just want to have some fun. Make me feel pleasure again, and the potion is yours. It's that simple. No catches. Semiramis has a resource, but she is not willing to give it to you for free. As a team, choose one of the options and proceed to its resolution. Let's try to take the potion by force. You debate on the proposal until the devotee loses her temper. Enough! She stops the altruistic discussion between the mercenary and the outlaw. Leave your filthy thoughts. No one shall lay with the witch, for I will take the bottle by force. The matter is resolved. Semiramis, in turn, does not cower. On the contrary, she laughs. So, you, of all people, maiden? I hoped that you would be the one to show sympathy for a sister's needs, she scoffs. Suddenly, the Queen of Babylon transforms into an arachnid monster from the waist down, ready to fight. We endure an ordeal of aggressiveness of 13. 7. I will spend 1 vigor for each of them so that they can roll an additional dice. Nice. That's 13. The monstrous form of Semiramis is enough to frighten an entire army, but once again, you show the reason why you are the chosen ones. Even though you have different personalities, in battle you fight as one, and the queen is no match for you. Defeated, she returns to human form, injured, and hands you the precious vial. You prefer pain to pleasure. So be it. The woman maintains her cynical tone, but the devotee cuts to the chase. What you offer is not pleasure, but perdition. May your eternal punishment perdure, witch. And with these harsh words, you take the first whirlwind to leave this place. We get the love potion, and the champion who rolled the most receives 1 aggressiveness token. I will give it to the artist. And here's the love potion. And then it says to place Chamber of Temptation and enter it. The next thing you know, you are on firm, cold ground. As if noticing the arrival of visitors, torches light up around you, illuminating a claustrophobic construction made of obsidian. It's an imitation of a basilica, but just thinking that there would be one here seems like heresy. The devotee notices the black stained glass windows that adorn the walls. It's heresy for this place to exist. Impressed, Dante interrupts her, even though it's not typical of him. This was not here before. Be careful. Just ahead, an altar holds an ox head carved in red wax with a broken cingulum on one of the horns. It whispers to the air, disguising lasciviousness in soft words that reach the heart. Then, just like in the dark forest, the world around you disappears as you dive into a hallucination from the past. So, take the champions' fierceness markers and place them on this region. From now on, whenever the caravan inspects it, return one of these markers to the tray and proceed to the appropriate resolution for that champion. Let's start with the artist, the time of discovery. Half a life ago, when the Rome dancer still didn't have her own show, the girl felt a warmth in her chest that she had never felt before. Beautiful, talented, and cheerful, there was no man who would not promise the world to marry her. But her father never accepted. He knew the preciosity he had. Still, suitors appeared almost every day, until someone special arrived. A girl they met when she came to invite the family to a congregation in honor of Sarah la Calais, one of the 3 Marys to whom the Romani of southern France were devoted to. The caravan from Carpati had just come to the region and had not yet settled. Encouraged to become friends, the girls did everything together. They acted, embroidered, sang, danced, and read. They bathed and cared for each other, but they also prayed together. The only thing they did not do was talk about marriage. Forgive me, the young artist said, feeling embarrassed the day their lips accidentally touched. A disconcerted atmosphere took over as Julia promptly did the same. She returned the kiss, but she never apologized. If this was the 4th time to inspect this region, add path card 8 to region 16, but it's not. Confused by the feelings that finally began to come together, the wanderer sought the church as she had always done for matters of the spirit. The truth is that the girl never liked boys, but that did not mean her heart would not burn for someone. Blasphemy! Sin! Depravity! The village priest received her with a bigoted attitude. I have seen how you two sing, dance, and party. Incontinence is the devil's door, and you have opened it wide open. Bring Julia here. I will recommend severe penance to purge such impure thoughts. The man was not taught to understand that kind of love. Astonished, the young artist did not want to deviate from her faith, but she needed to decide how she would face her feelings from that moment on. In tears, the young Rom recognized her weakness. The devil is capable of taking any form of disguise to lead the faithful astray, including that of love. With her back burning from a night spent in self-flagellation, she swore, whatever she felt, she would never yield to temptation. You would rather flay your own skin than listen to the beat of your heart. That is not strength. It's cowardice. Julia said goodbye with a broken heart. At least she was the only one. The artist did not give herself to anyone else. The wanderer awakes on the cold floor, her face washed with tears. Immediately, the wax head opens its mouth wide and summons a whirlwind as overwhelming as her memory, throwing all of you back to the heights, where the winds howl like wolves. The artist will progress her character card to Resented Wanderer. and then go back to Wuthering Heights. The caravan traverses the powerful winds that blow from south to north, winds that guide sailors back to their havens. You launch yourselves into the strong, dry wind, joining yet another whirlwind of the damned. Be careful, Dante warns. Things are very different in this place. There is not only darkness and storms now. The Order's incursion has changed the governing laws of perpetuity, the nature of punishments, and even the geography of the very atmosphere. The poet is worried when he imagines the scope of such disorder, but before he can be questioned once again for his seriousness, the gale that is carrying you slows down, and you reach your destination. Ahead, scorched paper rains onto the garden of a destroyed library, where verses about Lancelot and Guinevere fall all over the place. Dante knows whose torment this is. Francesca, Paolo, and the tragedy that caused Dante to faint when he was here for the first time. Go to Echoes of Ravenna. As soon as you get free of the winds, the couple approaches. How nice to see a friendly face, Dante. Francesca greets you, especially now that all is confusing. See that even Paolo and I, who accept our punishment, are tormented by memories that manifest beyond our control. The poet shares the enthusiasm of the reunion, but warns that your visit is brief. However, Providence seems to have brought you together for a reason. The lovers have witnessed important events. It started when an army came through Minos' manor. Paolo is the one who speaks now. But it was after the battle that took place at the Pass of Wailing that it all went out of control. Most of the knights moved forward, but a defeated battalion remained. Francesca and Paolo are willing to help, but you do not have time to investigate both leads. Ask them to tell you about the battle. Seeking to retrace the Order's trajectory, you ask the couple to tell you about the battle. Francesca and Paolo comply with the request, taking you to a road that leads to a special place. The one guarding the passage is Achilles, Paolo begins. He is the most skilled warrior who has ever lived. Even with the knights hurtling at him by the dozens, the Achaean was victorious. We do not know the reason, but in the end, the army was able to pass. The Guardian then headed towards the place where we are going. He did not seem defeated, and he did not even linger. When we later returned, he had already left. Francesca concludes. Go to Profound Abyss. The couple leads you to a crack that rips through the ground, forming a canyon. Coming from within, the cries of mourners announce a place of punishment. Descending a tortuous staircase, you arrive at a lake, with an inert surface like a large mirror. The image it reflects, however, is not of you, but of those who crossed your path. The devotee sees a young man hanging by the neck. The artist, a whipped woman in tears. The mercenary sees his brother lying dead in his bed, and the outlaw, a pile of bodies where two dismembered stand out. These are the consequences of our incontinence, the harm we unintentionally caused, Francesca explains to Dante's surprise. You did not come here the first time, poet. This place is new to you as well. We do not have discovery card number 8, so we must endure an ordeal of willpower difficulty 13. That only leaves us with 3 dice. And that's 4. Outlaw will spend 4 vigor, he's down to 1 to roll 4 dice, and 3 for the mercenary, and 1 and 1 for the others. Matthias down to 2 vigor, and devotee and artist down to 4 vigor. Just need 9, just barely. Contemplating the tragedies disturbs you. The devotee falls to her knees. Forgive me, she tearfully pleads with the reflection, which is replaced by the image of a woman. Your regret is genuine, maiden. Please, take this spear, and make Achilles have the clarity to see his own faults. The face begs. However, to your surprise, when the devotee bends down and picks up the gift, she stumbles, sinking in the pond as if she were a rock. Intriguing. Dante watches curiously. Companions, let us go, for Briseis is showing the way. He invites you to move forward and says his goodbyes to Francesca and Paolo. Take the Pelian spear, and the champion who rolled the most hits 1 willpower token. And that is the devotee. Return to Chamber of Temptation. Here's the spear we have. Whenever a malefactor enters your area, 3 automatic damage, plus you get to spend a vigor point to inflict as many additional damage. That could come in handy. This time, we are exploring the devotee's memories. One night, the young Flemish woman who would one day become the devotee pretended to have fallen asleep, only to sneak out in the middle of the night. Having christened just a few moons before, Whispers of arranged marriage began to surface, but she had other plans. The girl had fallen for the family's stable boy, a young man of military age, very good looking. This was the first time she had the idea of spying on him while he bathed. The blush on the cheeks, the heavy breath, the desire to do things she did not even know for sure. Her body burned. "I know you are there. I can see your green eyes through the crack," the servant warned, but he did not cover himself. The feeling was mutual. It did not take long for thought to become action, and youthful passion to be consummated again and again. The maiden believed that her father would have no alternative but to marry them, since she had surrendered to her beloved. Naive. The response to her confession was humiliation and beating. But it did not stop there. Having disgraced her father, the young woman would pay by being admitted to a convent. The boy, on the other hand, had an even worse fate. He was found hanging over the bed where their love was made eternal. "Your father warned us that a succubus lives in you," the Mother Superior commented while cutting the aspiring devotee's blonde locks as soon as she was admitted to the convent. "I was young too. I know how you feel. But worry not, for here you will discover a love more sublime than that of the flesh." The maiden's first nights were filled with tears for her lost life. However, in those moments when pain was greatest, she found the compassion of her sisters. Carrying their own tragedies, they supported each other like no one did for them outside those walls. Mother Superior was right. The young woman discovered a new type of love. But was it enough to suffocate the feeling of injustice that overflowed her? Even though that new life had brought good winds, an image remained in the maiden's head. Tibau, the stable boy, hanged. He committed suicide out of regret, her father's words reverberate. She could not accept it. If the price for laying with someone was so high, why would he have created her with such desires? Desires that would not fade, even now. No, she did not need a new life. She needed a mask. Suddenly, the devotee awakes in the dark chamber, screaming. Furious, she charges at the wax head to destroy it, but the sculpture opens its mouth wide and summons a violent whirlwind that drags you all back to the heights. Her character progresses to the bitter maiden, and then return to Wuthering Heights. The caravan traverses the gentle winds, journeying from west to east, evoking the essence of the Aegean Sea. Taking the wind that blows gently, you are lifted up high. There you can see, in the distance, a beach of dark sand, dotted with sharp rocks.
"Poet,"
Appalled, the artist asks a question.
"what is lust in the eyes of divine justice?"
Essentially, Dante begins,
"It is all that can be traced to a single crime, incontinence. When one surrenders to desire, ignoring the power one has to restrain it. This is where adultery, debauchery, and perversion originate. Remember that only rational love is pure and brings happiness."
Thoughtful, the girl falls silent and lets the silence reign until you reach your destination, a sandy expanse where worn-out banners lie as reminders of a long battle. Enter ruins of the past. The whirlwind leaves you amid a mirage of broken shields, bronze armor, and rusty spears, a scenario bottled up in one of the thousands of hurricanes of this circle and shaped by a couple of convicts. However, only the wife alone runs towards you. Helen, the poet sighs upon meeting once again the one considered the most beautiful among women. She, however, dispenses with pleasantries.
"Please, help me. They came and took Paris. A group of men, hoplites."
The Trojan princess pleads in anguish. Once again, the order has left chaos behind, perverting the divine arrangement. Rescuing her husband is a courteous gesture, but isn't chasing such a small battalion a waste of time?
She asks for help, but the path does not take you to the exit. Choose to help or avoid getting involved. I am going to help.
Moved by the emotional request, you decide to help Helen.
"The soldiers who took my husband were talking about a settlement they intended to reach by land. They prefer to avoid the winds,"
the princess explains excitedly.
"If we move quickly, we should be able to catch them on the way."
All eyes turn to the outlaw, for that is his specialty.
"The terrain in this place is sandier than that of my Cornwall,"
he contains their expectations.
"but I will do my best. Although, I would bet good silver on the guess that the ground here is tricky."
The rebel begins his work, searching for the enemy's tracks.
Endure an ordeal of prowess, difficulty 13. Only have 5 dice. Good. 8.
And the devotee and the artist and the mercenary will spend vigor. And that is 13. That leaves the devotee and the artist with 2 vigor, and the mercenary and outlaw with 1.
As you progress in your pursuit, the winds dance over the sand, covering the evidence of the invaders' passage as if on purpose. However, the outlaw has been trained to deal with such ruses, so this deception cannot disguise the footprints of the knights' heavy greaves. You move forward until you arrive at the ruins of an ancient pier. There, the coveted prize sits in his elaborate armor near a campfire, willingly keeping his captors company. In fact, these Iliad lovers do not understand anything about abductions. Gain the discovery card 5. The artist receives 1 prowess token. Go to Farewell Wharf.
When she meets her prince again, Helen runs to him. She does not care about the captors who, strangely, do nothing. Perhaps they knew beforehand what was to come. Paris does not respond.
My dear, why do you rob me of your affection? I found help and rushed to rescue you from your abductors, being a good wife, she inquires.
Abduction? He reacts angrily. In fact, I was as abducted as you were. Your charms bewitched me, awakened desires that condemned me, and made Troy burn. But no more. The order showed me the way.
Paris, what does this mean? You tear my heart apart. Aren't we the victims of love?
She continues, but the Trojan is immovable. Love? All it brought was death and destruction. I'm certain that history remembers our love differently, doesn't it? He adds, turning to you, making you mediators of a couple's fight. Helen and Paris can no longer come to an understanding. As a team, choose one of the options. Let's reprimand Paris and exonerate Helen.
Paris's certainty proved to be a great mistake. Your verdict makes him realize that, once again, he was selfish, impulsive, and reckless.
You are a coward! The mercenary grabs the Trojan. Instinctively, the knights draw their swords, but they are few. They are injured, and they know that the hostage will not react. So the fight turns into retreat.
Wait!
Helen intervenes.
Everything is fine. I do not blame him for wishing our fates were different. I, too, wish the same, when everything changed here. Now the wrongdoing is undone, and all is forgiven and forgotten.
She settles the argument. You say your goodbyes to the once again resigned couple and throw yourselves into the first whirlwind you see. We have ourselves our first trait. Whenever a malefactor inflicts damage on a champion of the opposite gender, before applying any block X effects, you may divide the damage evenly between you two. Go back to Chamber of Temptation. This time it's the mercenary.
The life of a prince has its perks, even if you are not the heir. It is true that you will live in your brother's shadow, and you will need to prove your value several times, but the man who would become the mercenary at the beginning of his adult life did not complain. He loved his family and his people. He liked to act as the right hand. On one of these occasions, he received a special task, organizing the firstborn's wedding. As usual, the wedding was arranged, the bride and groom did not know each other, and the place chosen was neutral territory. Once he arrived where the ceremony would take place, the warrior soon had someone's daughter as his lover to pass the time, as he always did. His bed was warm every night. By the end of the preparations, the webs of passion had entangled him. "I swear to you, brother, there will be 2 weddings," he celebrated with the groom when they met again on the fateful day. As a future sellsword took his place as best man, his romance dissolved into a nightmare. His legs shook like never before when he saw that the bride, promised to be pure, was the same woman who had sworn to be his and no one else's that very morning. That night, the mercenary could not sleep. He could fight all day in battle if he had to, but having to pretend that nothing had happened was too exhausting for him. A shame, as he would have preferred not to have seen it when the lady came into his room later.
"I did what my family wanted. Now, I shall do as I wish,"
she whispered to him as she undressed.
"Let us leave this place, Crete, Cyprus, Sicily, an island where every day will be our spring."
No blade had ever torn through the flesh of the sellsword like those words. For the first time, he found himself unarmed and defenseless.
He will end the romance with the brother's wife. The sellsword was more nervous in that room than on a battlefield. Gathering his courage, he put an end to what should not have even started. However, even though he acted right, the warrior would never be able to face his brother and break his heart by telling the truth. So, alone he fled. Renown, fortune, or title, none of that mattered anymore. He would just be the mercenary. The man awakes, here and now, feeling his heart being crushed. Immediately, the wax sculpture opens its mouth wide, summoning a devastating whirlwind that drags you all back to where all winds howl. So he will progress his character card to the Lonely Condottiero, then return to Wuthering Heights. The caravan traverses the dry wind blowing from east to west, the direction where both the sun and European civilization arise. The stormy winds carry you along with a crowd of the damned. They mourn and scream.
Let not pity cloud your judgment,
Dante advises when he sees your discomfort.
Remember that divine justice is omniscient.
Why do they suffer so much? The mercenary asks, clearly impressed. They seem restless.
Those who suffer in this circle, the poet explains, souls who eagerly sought companionship, suffer in death the lack of the warmth they sought in life.
The condottiero reflects, but only for a short time. The whirlwind slows as you reach your destination, an immense, deteriorated sphinx, at the feet of which a woman waits impatiently.
Enter ruins of the Sphinx.
Before the majestic figure, Dante bows.
Cleopatra, brilliant strategist and unique ruler, I know who you are and what you want, she interrupts bluntly. Know that your descent is guarded by Achilles, the most skilled warrior who has ever lived. The Myrmidon believes that his legendary spear is safe where he left it. However,
the Queen of Egypt smiles, revealing the weapon.
Take it. It's yours, she insists. All I ask in return is a favor.
Her intentions come to light.
Minos seems to have a good relationship with you, and what I wish for is a new trial. All things considered, this is nothing. After all, I am certainly not the empty, lustful woman the Romans describe, she adds, inviting you to accompany her to the king of Crate's manor. The poet argues that the effort is in vain, as the sentence reflects divine justice, but he makes it clear that the decision is yours.
Well, we have the Pelean spear, so we must go to 23A immediately.
Tell us, Queen,
the outlaw scoffs.
Why should we help a liar?
He shows her the spear you have, leaving Cleopatra disconcerted.
Please, accept my sincere apologies. Life taught me not to trust anyone. My spear is not the real one, indeed, but I intended to reveal that later.
She explains herself like a politician.
However, my request remains. A vain attempt or not, grant me an audience, and I will owe you.
In the end, which of you can judge her for having learned to be suspicious, having lived a time of scams and machinations?
Cleopatra tried to deceive you, but she appeals to your integrity. Choose one option.
Force Cleopatra to hand over Achilles' equipment.
Such audacity!
The devotee bursts out, feeling pressured.
Give us all you stole. If you really wish to have your sentence reviewed, start by doing good without expecting anything in return. Only then will the high power look upon you favorably,
the maiden lectures Cleopatra.
Do you firmly believe that? The queen provokes. All beings doing as they please. As far as I know, no one has been punished so far. The truth is that he does not look at us at all.
She blasphemes, disillusioned.
Anyway, the rest of Achilles' belongings are in the eye of the storm, to the east.
The ruler continues.
Keep the spear, and this lead. They are my gifts to you.
She concludes and says her goodbyes, her last words sounding malicious. Enter the eye of the storm. Moving forward through the dunes, you arrive at the place indicated by Cleopatra, a wild vortex that drags countless souls amidst stormy clouds. Why are these winds so impetuous? The mercenary has to shout to be heard.
I believe this has to be more of a disorder, as this gale represents the infamous wrath of Achilles. Don't be swallowed up. This cyclone does not distinguish us from the condemned,
Dante recommends. Filled with determination, you advance towards its center. The wind is so strong that it makes the sand hurt your skin. But you remain willing to reach the golden pieces that shine in the darkness.
An ordeal of willpower of 13. All right, someone's getting a wound here. Only 5 dice. Oh! That's 8 right there. The artist and devotee will both spend 1 vigor, so everybody only has 1 vigor left. And here are the extra rolls. That's 11, and with the Arcana to re-roll all of the purple's dices, she needs 2 more successes. Here we go. And that's it! 13.
With your feet firm on the ground and holding arm in arm, you resist the weather and cross the challenging storm winds. In the eye of a wrathful hurricane, beneath the heaviest shield you have ever touched lies a small blade, a breastplate, greaves, and braces made of gold. With the exception of the robust defense piece, the other parts are light as a feather and stronger than steel. You take what you can carry, and you make the return trip. But this time, there is no salvation. As if they had witnessed the looting, the winds blow even more violently and hurl you through the darkness. Achilles' regalia, and the devotee will get a willpower token. Then enter Chamber of Temptation. Oh, this is nice. Block 2 of all damage being inflicted on you by a malefactor's actions. And this is consistently. It isn't spent. The Black Widow's Kiss, the Outlaw. Just over a decade and a half ago, the soldier who would become the outlaw broke the bonds of vassalage imposed since birth. The first looting that made him famous was motivated by the promise of the liberation of the peasantry and the fight against tyranny, greed, and corruption. The following ones, not so much. Homages, tributes, power. In his early 20s, he was seduced by the perks received by warlords. And so, he led his own band for 5 years until, one fateful day in a battle like any other he had won before, he was defeated, and his whole world turned upside down. The treatment for a rebel was worse than death itself. However, this was not the end. The duke who defeated the outlaw could see his qualities: young, strong, a natural leader, and was willing to spare him and his soldiers, except for one person. A woman, Melandra, the companion who had devoted the last years of her life to the rebel. Someone would pay the price for betrayal, and it was up to the prisoner to decide. It would either be the love of his life, or the men who bled alongside him, a choice that has haunted him ever since. This is our 4th visit to the Chamber of Temptations, so place path card 8 on Wuthering Heights. Astonished, the rebel stood and hurriedly dressed. He knew the rebellion was doomed, but perhaps he could leave in that instant and warn his comrades, saving his men. The problem was that it was not a simple choice.
Wait! If you go, they will know it was I who told you. I will be executed as a traitor,
the lady confessed in despair.
Whether we like it or not, our destinies are tied, as they always were. For me, at least, when you showed me the England of your dreams.
She had fallen in love not only with the man, but also with the revolutionary's bravado. Finding himself between the hammer and the anvil, he needed to make a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He will alert his men. With his heart racing, the outlaw did what needed to be done. The lady who risked her own life to save him would die. Otherwise, the men who followed him blindly would be slaughtered by the king, and he could not allow that. In his younger years, the conscript boy learned that war is terrible for soldiers, but it was only at that moment that he understood that leadership is not a prize, at least in the eyes of the virtuous. Reality is cruel, and many times, someone will pay the price in blood because of you. Quiet as always, the rebel awakens from his hallucination, staring at the ox's head. Suddenly, a whirlwind coming from nowhere throws you all into darkness, leaving you back at the Wuthering Heights. So the outlaw now progresses his character card to the rebel leader and enters Wuthering Heights. Head to the Pass of Wailing. Hovering over the circle of the lustful, the caravan sees the passage to the 3rd circle. Is it time to go? After searching for a long time, you finally find an immense, sectioned depression, as if it were a large stadium, which funnels into a valley that separates this circle from the next. There, a terrible scene awaits you as soon as you free yourselves from the winds that brought you there. Dozens and dozens of fallen knights, some still in agony, are spread across the battlefield. Sitting and bored, the perpetrator of this carnage rejoices at the sight of you.
That is Achilles, the greatest warrior in history. Let us be cautious.
The poet whispers advice. The son of Peleus then stands up and starts walking from side to side, staring at you, one by one, observing as a lion watches his prey. Of course, he's not willing to talk. And that is the end of the Chronicle phase. Now we are going to enter the Circle 2 boss fight against Achilles. This was a much more fortuitous excursion into the circle as opposed to last time. Hopefully these items and traits will make a difference in this fight, although everybody starts with 1 vigor. I'm Gambit. Thank you for joining me for this Chronicle phase. I will see you in the next episode where I played quick.